we'd like to call this meeting to order of the regular school committee for November 5th. We're at Appleseed. If everyone can stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fortunately, I'm old and I need glasses too. All right, I'm going to read our school committee statement. The school committee represents the needs of all Leominster public school students and places their interests above all others. We will exercise leadership, adhere to our protocols, and base our decisions upon a reasoned assessment of all available information. We will advocate for each of our schools and support high-quality public education in Leominster. Having said that, we're going to open up to the open forum. So if anybody would like to address the committee, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, please. Would anybody like to address the school committee during the open forum? Come on up.
Holly Kosky, used to live in Leominster, now live in Ringe, and I just wanted to tell you guys I think you're doing a great job as a school committee this year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you, Holly.
Would anybody else like to address the committee? And one final and last time. All right, this portion of our meeting is closed. We're going on to communications, Superintendent.
There are no communications this evening.
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to the student superintendent's report.
I'd like to donate my time tonight to our CTI fellows here.
Okay.
From the electrical department. They'd like to come forward.
They're looking very dapper.
They are very handsome. Come on up, guys.
Everybody can come up and sit around if you want to.
They have a plan.
You have a plan? All right.
You want the spotlight?
That's fine. One at a time is okay.
Okay. Hello, Leominster School Committee. My name is Andrew, and I am here today to share with you my experience in partaking in the hanging of the new Leominster High School CTE banners that you saw on your way in on the poles, safety procedures, and training we went through. Training happened on Tuesday, October 30th in the back of the CTE parking lot over there. And we had both bucket trucks outside with the lifts, and before we could get to that, we had to do some safety procedures. We had to wear harnesses that wrap around your whole body like a big snake, and I like to refer to it as a safety diaper. And if it's uncomfortable, then it's on right. After fastening the harnesses, we had to be trained on the bucket maneuvering, which was a series of 3 or 4 levers used to maneuver the lower and upper booms. The training came in handy when it came to hanging the banners. I'm very thankful for my instructor, Scott Schofield, for sharing the opportunity to use the bucket and for training us well. I had a great experience and learning experience. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. I am Mr. Bally St. Charles, and I am proudly a part of the electrical program here at the Leominster CTI. Today, I would be speaking a little bit about the tools and methods we use to mount these banners on the light poles along the school roads and parking lots. The posters that we were provided came with fasteners, which were like large metal zip ties, which were held by a 5/16 nut screw. We used a drill with a 5/16 nut driver to tighten the zip tie to the brackets with the pole, which held the posters up against the lights. The posters had to be about 1 foot from the bottom of the light, so all the posters could be uniform. I would like to thank my instructor, Scott Schofield, for helping me and training me for this important task, and I would like to thank the Leominster School Committee for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alex Richardson, and I am an electrician in the class of 2020. Recently, these 3 students and I got the opportunity to go into a bucket truck and hang up the banners that you now see on Kingman Drive. As you all know, we are a comprehensive high school, and so to honor both sides of our school, we had 2 different type of banners, Leominster High School 1 and Leominster CT 1. To show the equal importance of both parts of our school, we switched between the two banners from light pole to light pole. This wouldn't have been able to be done if we were properly taught and supervised by Mr. Joe Poirier Jr. and Mr. Scott Schofield.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us and giving us the great honor. I've never been to one of these meetings, and it's really cool to see what's behind the school, and you guys are doing a great job. My name is Caleb D'Souza. I'm also part of the electrical program. The installation of the banners, it was very easy and simple and basic, and while we would like to say that it was that we are a couple of geniuses and that we figured it out by ourselves, we couldn't have done it without the two people who showed us how it's done, Scott Schofield and Joe Poirier Jr. They really helped us out. Alex and I worked with Joe Poirier Jr. and Andrews and Stavaldi. They worked with Scott Schofield, and they were really patient with me. On the first one, I had a little bit of trouble. I was able to speed it up along as we went along, and they were really patient. We certainly couldn't have done it without them. And also, I thought that if we had any leftovers, I thought that we could have taken some of the large banners and put them on the bar joist in the gym. So, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. It looks fantastic. You did a great job. And when you drive up, you just feel this sense of pride for the high school. So keep it up. Your efforts are much appreciated.
Nice job, gentlemen.
And you look great. I hope you wear this tomorrow.
And were there any banners left over that you could hang in the gym?
Yeah, there's a lot.
Oh, good. So we'll put them to good use, I hope?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's not as easy to run those bucket trucks as somebody might think. As somebody that's been up in one, you think you're hitting the left and the thing goes that way, right? It takes a little while. And when I got here, you guys, I thought you were like professionals. Like, you knew exactly what to do. But safety is paramount. That's why it was a whole day of just safety, because safety's issue today is a huge, big issue today. We have to follow all these new OSHA laws, and you're dealing with poles that have lights on them, and you're electricians, so they have electricity going through them, right? And they have to be so high so no trucks hit them. So there's a lot to it, right? Just think about it. But once you get going, so Dave, I know this is the kind of project we on the city side love to do, because it actually shows them the work and they do the work. I didn't know they're actually going to let them up in the bucket truck. But that's a good thing. You know what I mean? And so they made the banners, everything. That's true, organic experience.
They have to each enter this on their resume now.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, good job. And anytime that we can help whatever it is that you're doing at CTEI and make it true life, that's the best thing. And who knows, it might be one of them that replaces Joe Poirier Sr. or CJ. Those guys are going to retire someday, and somebody's going to have to get up there and, they're city electricians is what they are, and then you have DPW people, and somebody's going to replace them. So to expose them to that is a good thing. Plus, it can get a little windy up there, too. When you start moving around on the ground, it doesn't seem so bad. But once you get 20 feet up in the air, totally different story. So good job. And the printing of the banners, again, everything from start to finish, to ordering the brackets, to getting the brackets installed, to making the banners, to get it, graphics. It tied in about 6 different areas of education. So
I think it's also important to remember, too, that this was a gift from
right.
the graduating class of 2018 to our school.
I love it.
It was very thoughtful on their part. It's nice to see it.
Yep.
Wonderful, and a great partnership.
And if you ever want to start a clothing store, let me know. I'll be your best customer.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Superintendent?
Just a quick reminder, no school tomorrow, but it is voting day. So please take the opportunity, be civic, be responsible, but be excited to get out there. We are the role models for our children, so this is one of the activities they want to see us engaged in. We also have no school on Monday the 12th. It's Veterans Day. There are events happening all over the city that you can be involved in. The Leominster Public School wants to thank anyone in our audience for their service. It's something that is near and dear to all of our hearts. And lastly, parent conferences are 2 weeks tonight. If you don't have a one-to-one with your child's teacher about their progress, please stop and schedule an appointment. This is your time to really go in deep, monitor your child's progress, and make sure that we keep them all on track. So we're moving forward. First quarter is done. November is here. And I have a funny feeling December is coming even faster.
Absolutely.
Have those forms gone out for parent-teacher conferences?
So please call.
Call the school.
No.
With the report card.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Relax.
I saw her get up out of the seat. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have a student report?
We do. Emily
Awesome.
Thorne.
Please come join us.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So my name is Emily Thorne. In the month of October, we just spoke about the new banners that we got, and they were a gift of the class of 2018. The LHS football team won its past few games, and including the homecoming game, which was now a all-day affair on Saturday with different fundraisers, food, and sports. Cross country just had its last meet, and Life Skills had their annual Halloween party. And then in November, we just recently had SATs this past weekend. The canned food drive has just started and is continuing for this whole week. The theater is working on its new production of You're in Town, and the quarterfinals is tonight for the boys soccer. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Just a question, is the hand drive to benefit Ginny's Food Pantry or something else?
Yeah, it's for Ginny's. It's a competition we have against Fitchburg, so we have the Thanksgiving Day game, and we compete against who can get as much canned food as possible.
Oh, I didn't know it was a competition.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
We need to win.
Right? We usually
Right?
don't.
Stop.
We usually do not.
All right. We're on it. I didn't realize it was a competition. That just ramped it right up. Okay.
We usually don't win. So.
No, we don't. We win the Thanksgiving Day game usually, but not canned food.
Well, this year, how about we win both?
Yeah, that's the goal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along, we have presentations. We have a technology update.
Yes, Mr. Mamoni, back from his whirlwind tour at Google. Ooh.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you for spending a few minutes with me tonight. Very excited to be able to share some of the progress we've made and some of the initiatives that we have going forward. Chris is going to start the presentation. No, Chris, the papers. So that you don't have to turn your head. The presentation there can be for the multitude of television viewers that we have. So I just wanted to start with kind of where are we? So I started with a word splash, and you can see on the second slide that the word splash, the size of the words kind of demonstrates or shows importance. And so when I talk to the technology department, those are some of the things that we are striving to become with our students and with our staff members. So approachability, collaboration, those are some of the focus that we have. And so I wanted to share that with you. Our role, I believe our role is to support all students and staff in all their learning opportunities, their ongoing learning opportunities, and then individual personal growth. So you might hear me talk about that throughout the course of the year. Staffing myself, we have a technician, Bob. You all know Bob well. And we have building-based support staff. We started the year with 4, and we're at 7 building-based support staff. So we're at a much more reasonable level for the number of buildings and the number of students and staff that we have for support. Our goal would be to get to the point where we are helping staff instructionally and not just kind of fixing the tech issues that pop up. So we're working toward that goal. On the next slide, I have an overview of a few of the things that I'll talk about tonight, so I'm going to keep going. That's just kind of an outline. The top is, on the next slide, is my philosophy kind of technology, and that's on slide 3. I think technology should be there to support the learning target in instruction. And if it doesn't have a purpose, if the purpose is not directly related to the learning target, then it's probably not the best application for that use of technology. Okay, and it could, in fact, distract students from the real learning that might occur. I have a quick quote. Something boring on paper is still boring on a tablet or a laptop. And so I think we want to keep that in mind. Just because it's on a piece of technology and accessed by students doesn't make it innovative, doesn't make it powerful. The learning could still, need some work there. Along those lines, on the right side of that slide, I think staff should be trying to target opportunities for students to explore, design, create. And those are the kinds of things that are going to lead our students into the future. I keep hearing a lot of statistics around what our elementary students are going to have for job possibilities. And there's a lot of numbers thrown around, but anywhere from 40 to 60% of the jobs that our students that are currently in grade school are not even invented yet, are not even possible. And so those are the kinds of conversations that we want to have with teachers so that we're stressing the exploring, design, and creation. And I think that's important. This is something that I found I wanted to throw in there. One of the roles that I see myself in is trying to promote and support staff and students in their technology. This is one way that I try to do that. As you may know, I've been sending out tech tips. Everyone's so excited about the tech tips. I send them out on Fridays. How can you get upset with something on a Friday, right? But I've been trying to keep them small, maybe something useful, something that's new to us in G Suite or just technology. One was Aspen related. This was a little different this week. I tried to send out maybe a little more philosophy thinking around, okay, what could we be doing in our classrooms? So I'm not going to read those, but they go along with the lines of, active, engaging. And so those are the kinds of things that we're stressing. Let's talk about some of the major initiatives. As you know, coming into this year, there was a lot of work to be done. And when Paul and I spoke around some of the things that we were going to be working on, it was exciting to me. And it was challenging, I'll be honest, but exciting at the same time. And I think we've made quite a bit of progress since the beginning of the year. Keep in mind it's the first week in November, and we've already, we've rolled over our district-wide email to Gmail. That was a major initiative. When we first started speaking about that, the goal was the end of the school year for that. And we accelerated that due to safety, security, and it's gone very well. We've also adopted the entire G Suite for education, and that's one that's going to take longer. We've adopted it, and there's a large amount of use by staff, but that's not something you just turn a switch and everyone knows how to do everything. You might be proficient in Word, but learning Google Docs, that might take a little bit more time. Similar functions, everything you need is there, but how do you find it? Where do you click? All of those things. Geez, I don't have to click save? What do you mean? Where's it going? How do I find it again? All of those things. And so ways that we're addressing that are professional development. Some of it's guided, and some of it's self-directed. And so I think we've worked on that in a way that I think is comfortable for staff, but like I said, it's going to take some time. I can't say enough about my two colleagues. They're in the back, Renee and Lorene. As you know, they make up the curriculum department along with myself and Barbara Davis. But the things that I've talked about so far, the email rollover, the G Suite. I couldn't have worked on those if Lorene and Renee weren't working on Symphony Math and trying to get that rolled over for our teaching staff, and countless other programs, curriculum-based programs that in the future I'll have more of a hand in, but they've really done a lot of that. So I want to have a shout out to them. The professional development I touched on a little bit. And then there's a few things that we've started and are currently working on. As you may know, Destiny Library Manager, just heard my mom say, sit up straight, Stephen. Okay. Yep, so I'm going to try. So Destiny Library Manager, so I guess a shout out to Connie. Thanks, Mom. Destiny Library Manager was the sole remaining casualty of our ransomware. And so a lot of work has been done until now, but we're still not up and running. We have training starting tomorrow with our library media specialists and tech support staff, myself and Bob, and we're going to then hit the ground running, start scanning our collections, getting that back up and running. And I was very excited to tell our staff that everything for Destiny will be housed in the cloud. So that will be backed up in the cloud. It will be there. It will be Destiny's responsibility. And so we're excited about that. The next thing is Smart Find Express. That's something that is taking a little bit of time, but again, professional development is starting for the staff, myself, and Assistant Superintendent Riley to get that going. That's the absent management piece for staff. And so we have a training on Wednesday and Thursday, and then 2 more in the following week, and then we should be able to hit the ground running there. And then Bob's done some security work. I figured I might as well talk about this as it might be a question. So what's different from this year to last year? And so when I speak with Bob around that, he's moved some of the things that may have been open areas. So a staff member in the past may have been able to log into a system remotely from home, tightened up those kinds of things. So less access into the system from outside the system, and that's an important piece. I talked about the email. So now Google, I got a little alert today that a user was shut down. So Google does that automatically if they see any inkling of suspicious activity on that account, allows them to check it out, allows us to check it out, so we're not behind. And that's a very aggressive approach, which we need. We also have some, let's see, so Bob set up a much more aggressive antivirus schedule. So we're using a Microsoft piece to scan our system. And like I said, much more aggressive. So that's exciting and necessary. We're also exploring, okay, what else can be in the cloud? What other things are we using, have vulnerabilities, and what kinds of things do we want to explore? And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Okay. Just want to make sure you knew the technology wasn't going to
work, right?
Yeah. Chris, can you hit my arrow up there for me?
I didn't even touch it.
Well, I don't know. If you know me, I tend to maybe. Okay. That's all right. We're gonna
batteries.
We're gonna keep moving.
It's the batteries.
I don't think so. See, now I can blame Crystal because she's touching it. So, all right. So, some upcoming projects that are going. I'm on. Let's see, slide 7. Okay, those are. So we have the Aspen portal. We've talked about that. That's an exciting piece for teachers and for administration, but most importantly, I think for parents and students. That information exchange going back and forth is going to be helpful. And so we're starting a task force, a little committee, to be made up of staff across different areas, teaching staff and admin staff. And so that'll be starting up shortly, and we'll have a plan in place for deployment. Something that the mayor has talked about with us along the way, one-to-one devices for our students. And Paul and I have spoken. We've spoken with the mayor. The mayor's excited about that. We have, as are we. I think that's a great way to involve homeschool education, but it's also a way for us to build use in the classroom. We're taking away some of the challenges around deployment of carts, but it also allows students to be on a level playing field when they go home. So how can they use their device to complete assignments and those kinds of things? So we've gathered some information and some pricing, and we're looking at some funding for the future. So we're excited about that. And if we're able to, we're looking at 9th, 8th grade, and then we can kind of grow in both directions. I've also been in touch with other districts that are currently in one-to-one. I've made some new friends, and so I'm going to be relying on experiences of other districts. And so I'm all about not reinventing the wheel, but let's mirror some good practices from others. And then upcoming, we have assessments. Access is coming up right at the start of the year, and MCAS is a big one, as we'll be testing all our students in grades 3 through 10. The last bullet on that slide is something that is very important. I mentioned that earlier, the security of our systems. So we'll be doing some risk analysis. And so it might be penetration testing. It might be, malicious emails out to staff to see who's clicking on them. And then so we can identify areas for training. We can identify areas for beefing up. And a lot of that risk assessment comes at no charge. So we get good data, we get good evaluations, and then we can start target our planning. Thank you, Mrs. Cipolla. I think maybe one more click. So some of the next steps, if we're looking at slide 8. So continued growth with G Suite. I think as we become more comfortable with that, the productivity of that. Google Classroom is a huge part of that, and I see teachers with some great applications of that. I don't want to say going paperless, but less paper. More accessibility, ease of use for teachers. We're always looking to save some time, and those are the kinds of things that I think G Suite can do for us. I talked a little bit about infrastructure in terms of safety, but also our infrastructure in terms of servers and broadband, and how are we going to sustain one-to-one devices when we add 1,000 more devices? How can the wireless handle that? So all of that needs some evaluation, and then we can plan. We can plan for that. Expanding instructional resources for staff. I think that's important. Teaching staff has a set amount of time. Let's be honest, and that time is being pulled in a lot of different directions. So anything that curriculum and technology can do to support them and point them in the right directions to help them solve instructional challenges that they might have is going to pay off a lot. We need to worry about device management and replacement planning, short-term, long-term planning. As a principal, you heard me sit here and talk about replacing the technology in a building. Well, we need to expand that and think about how each building is talking about replacement planning, how we're budgeting for that, and then how we're taking care of our equipment, and how we're tracking it so that there's not loss of equipment. And then all of that leads right to responsible budgeting. Ms. Koska will tell you I'm a pretty frugal budgeter. She likes to say cheap. I prefer frugal. But, I think spending money on technology for a purpose, right? We're not just going to spend to say we have the technology. We're going to make sure we're using it instructionally. And that's one thing that I can promise you. Okay, I tried to keep to my time. I have a little bit of time for questions.
I have a couple of different things.
Okay.
I'm glad to see that Destiny Library Manager is moving forward. As I toured around the different schools, that's one of the big things I heard about.
Sure.
Is Destiny was not up and running,
yep.
And it was really hurting them. So I'm glad to see that you're going to be working on that tomorrow and eventually getting that all.
Yeah. And a large shout out to schools, because a lot of our librarians were finding, in schools, staffs, teachers, were finding ways to get books in children's hands, not being held back by that. So big shout out to them.
The other thing is there any way of taking all the different calendars from the different schools, merging them into one calendar so that we as school committee members and maybe people in the public can just go and see all the different activities and choose which ones they want to go to, that we can merge this together? Yeah. Because I find it troublesome to have to go to each school and figure out what's happening.
One calendar with events tagged by school.
Yeah, I think it's an experience thing. We just need to teach people how to do that. It's set up. It's there. We have a district-wide calendar. And so when each school creates an event on theirs, they can also share it to the district-wide one. I think we need to work with staff around that. And, that's an issue of inexperience at this point. These are new tools for a lot of people. We relied for a long time on Outlook calendars and all the great things that we could do in our Outlook calendars. At least I'm speaking for myself, and I know others. But so expanding our use of Google Calendars.
But I'm finding I'm missing activities that I would have liked to have gone to because I didn't check that school's calendar, or a notice wasn't sent to us. Lots of times some schools have sent us notices that an activity is coming up. Yeah. So we can plan to attend or not attend. Or?
Yeah. Well, Thursday night I can have a little shout for Northwest Pasta Supper. Right. Even though I'm not there anymore, I did put that on my calendar. Maybe make an appearance.
Then my last thing is, and I guess more a question to the superintendent, since I was involved with the teachers' negotiations, would it be possible that I sit in on the committee for the Aspen portal?
I think that'd be sound. Yeah.
All right.
Steve, we're
forming now, so perfect timing.
On the calendar part, isn't it a simple merge of putting like Monday, everything that's going on in a particular any school on Monday, and then Tuesday? That's a simple thing, right? That's logistical.
Well, I think when we've tried to do it that way, have people send it to one person, that's pretty time consuming.
I think once you enter the data in, you can do it both ways. You can find out anything. Once the data's in, the person should be able to, the person should be able to click. I don't know how you do that in your system. It's going to take some time. But I think in the end, the whole purpose of the database is to enter it in once and then be able to pull it out in multiple uses. So if you want to find out what's going on Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, you can. You want to look under sports. I'm pretty sure that system is capable.
Yeah.
So that'll just take time.
We'll find. We'll get there.
I think 2 quick questions. You said your building support staff is up to 7.
Yes.
Do you have a goal number that you're trying to reach that would be ideal?
I wouldn't think we would need more support staff than that.
Okay.
What we need is experience at the Bob level. Expertise at the high end.
Okay.
And so, my strength when I came on board is around instruction, leadership, not necessarily how to go in and fix a server. I'm learning a few tricks along the way.
So you need another Bob.
We do, and we had posted for that 3 times. Yeah. And so it was a challenge finding someone for that. The experience level that we would need and our price point just wasn't aligning. So what we did, superintendent and I talked, and so instead of looking for another technician, we're looking for an assistant technician. Maybe somebody at a little bit lower price point with, maybe out of school or somebody willing to learn that we can then grow, but a little more experience around that stuff than myself or the in-school technicians.
Okay. And the other question is the one-to-one devices for students. Are you looking at Chromebooks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It certainly fits our long-term planning around increasing use of G Suite. And, I forgot to mention, I don't know if everyone knows this, but Google for Education is free, and so we're not paying for that, and so unlimited a lot of things. I could talk about that for hours, but
because I follow all of the schools' Twitters, every school that has a Twitter I follow, I now get targeted advertising from Google Education on Twitter.
Oh yeah. Sometimes a little scary on the targeted advertising. If you search for something online that you want to buy, next thing you know, you're inundated with ads for that item. But good with the bad, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mike.
I was just curious about the risk analysis. Do you have outside resources to help with that?
Yes. So we work with Dell. Dell is one of our vendors where we're purchasing Chromebooks from, and their support has been pretty good for us. And so they have a program. There's also HP has a program. We work with AdviseX, a group that helps us with technology issues above our technician, above Bob. So what do we do when something goes down that Bob isn't experienced in? So we have a resource there. So depending what it is, penetration testing, those kinds of things. So those are the things that I'm lining up. I'm trying to get our things in place first. Next. That's on my whiteboard.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ron.
No, you had your hand.
I'd rather listen to you.
I was just curious about the Destiny Library. Is there a push, and maybe it's me that's wrong, is there a push for electronic books versus paper books?
So yes. I don't know if there's a push. I think there's a place for both. And we currently have some in the district, over 200. I'm not sure the exact number. E-books in a few of our libraries that are available, the high school being one of them. And so I do see that growing, especially if a student has a device. Right? So now if a student has a device that they can access the e-book, much easier to have that be an assignment in class or part of an assignment in class. It really goes around the access.
Do you have a goal for how many you're looking for?
No.
E-books? And one question begets another one. Are you looking, is anyone looking towards the possibility that the school books we have now, the textbook we have now, they no longer exist, they're just being e-books?
Well, so there's a lot to that. I think there's a place for the books we have now because, A, we encumbered money for them and they're still timely. But I think teachers are constantly looking for other resources, and they might be e-books. I think also a trend may be to use less of one resource when you're teaching, right? And with access to technologies, I think teachers have great things at their fingertips. Think of history teachers and real artifacts, and art teachers with visual things that they can show students. So multiple resources, e-books certainly a part of that. And I think I would be preaching to the choir here, like I would never see paper books go away. Right? There's something special about holding a book and getting the feel for that.
I'm guilty as charged. Look at the books I have. If I could have these in e-book, I'd destroy these. I'd burn them. And I can't get them in e-book. Well, look, guys, why should I lie? I get laughed at because I have these books with me all the time.
So I think a good balance, right?
Ron, I'm going to guess you can get them on e-book.
But I've already paid, it costs them some centavo.
Right, but if they're educational, then the value of the information that he has or companies have now, so you buy a book. Well, before, if you wanted to get an update,
it
took
the whole thing.
a year to get an update, and it came this loose leaf thing that you had to subscribe. Well, you don't have to do that anymore. It's kind of like if you watch 60 Minutes at the end, it says if you want to learn more about this. They only had 10 minutes to tell you about it. But if you want to learn more about it, click on it. You'll get like hours and hours and hours and hours. Question how much you really want to.
If I could have these books on a flash drive, I'd do it in a minute.
Yeah, but
Come see me at work, Ronnie. I'll help you with the e-book.
So for personal use, Leominster Public Library does a great job.
Right.
If you have your library card, you can check out e-books free of charge.
But in a learning environment...
Geez, I'm just plugging everyone tonight.
But in a learning environment, though, that there's so many possibilities, and I think that's what you were referring to on the first page, is the ability to, you only have a student for an hour. So you can teach them math for an hour, but that doesn't mean the student has to stop learning math after the hour, right? Yeah. So if a student's really intrigued or gets caught up on something, you want the ability for that student to electronically be able to go through it. There's never going to be a replacement for the teacher. No. It's just this is an enhanced use. Yeah. Right. So you want to learn more. If you get stuck on multiplications or whatever it might be, and that was going to sort of be my question is, I think we had this conversation with the superintendent, is what happens when the student who gets locked in, like at, say, in a math exercise, and you're holding up the whole class, but you don't really want to, but you've got 20 other kids in there. So will have the ability to sort of preload, the software, so that if the student doesn't have internet at the house, the kid doesn't have to go down the street and sit in front of a housing, development while he gets free internet. So can that be sort of, is that how it works? So it can be canned. So Mike could take the student and say, listen, it looks like you're stuck on this. I'll spend some time with you, but take this home and go through that, and sort of do that layered approach to step by step until you can get to it.
No, absolutely. I think the differentiation piece in instruction is critical. We've talked about that a lot in Leominster, and with Google Classroom, you can adjust assignments for different populations within your class, and that piece is a lot easier than doing it manually. So that's one piece.
So I can take that home without being connected to the internet.
Yes, you can work offline. But also, superintendent and I have had discussions. We know there's a population of students that will not have access at home. So how do you manage that? And so, I'm thinking around hotspots or devices that can connect without internet, internet-capable devices. Now, everyone doesn't need that because many homes have internet. And so I see a survey, right, surveying people, finding out who doesn't, what the needs are, and then having some of those available, some of those internet-capable devices or hotspots, districts do it differently, having those available to sign out, just like you would other resources in the library. And so we need to support those students. That's an absolute, we need to. And so how do we do that? That's part of the plan.
Because that's one area I think that we could raise money. I know I could, privately, to be able to get a student that take the classroom home with them.
Yeah.
And that's an area that I think when you ask the public to support. Now, I'm saying this time, when people understand the importance of technology, that's an area that I think people would be willing to donate to, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And even if it's internet access, because I know we're assuming most people have internet access, but it's not cheap to have internet access. So I think you're going to find a pretty sizable amount of students. So, they have so many different pieces of equipment today that you can, the hotspots.
Yeah.
And it may have to work like a library card or something where you take it home with you, you check it out, you've got it. So I'm sure it's been done somewhere else, but
not every student will need it every night.
No. So and that's what I'm saying. Once the student comes back and you've got them over that sort of hump, where now now they caught up to the rest of the class, that's going to be a big benefit to everybody.
Absolutely.
So I think that's something to explain. I know you're looking at it. Yeah. It's just an area. I know we had talked about it a couple of years ago, and then I'm not sure what happened to it after that. But it's certainly an area I'd like to see, and I think it's an area that people would definitely donate to. Businesses in particular, people call me all the time. How can I help? How can I help? This is an area that they really would like to help in. Great. So even if you do it on a pilot basis, just a testing kind of thing, buy 6. I know I can get the private funding for it. You buy 6, get 6 hotspots, and one per school, one for just to start out to test it, see how it works. And things are going to happen to it, right? One's going to drop in the puddle. Things are going to happen. That's life.
I know my colleagues are taking notes. The note just said, Steve, make sure you talk to the mayor. Yes.
Well,
you're right on though.
You come up with the price, right? Yeah. And then it's easy for me to say, I need 500 or 600, and this is what you get, and this is what it does. But
absolutely.
Let's test it out. I know that's what the superintendent was talking about. Let's try it out, see if it works. If it works, then we bring it to the next level.
Yeah. And just
I think it's exciting that we're on this path, and it's
a long time in coming.
Yeah.
But it's great that we're there.
And it's faster than we predicted.
Yeah.
And Steve is no longer looking for the defibrillator in the hallway. Every day he was coming out saying, "What am I doing now?" And no, we're biting the bullet and moving forward. It's been received very positively. So I think we're encouraged to keep moving on this trajectory.
The only one last thing is, just to tie into this, and I don't want to sort of make the clock go any longer, but we had that study done last year and a half ago. A company came in and did an evaluation.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're incorporating into the whole sort of taking Google and just taking it all and just putting it, because there were a number of recommendations made at that.
There are. A lot of recommendations in there, actually.
Okay.
Some of them we're moving on already. Others I'm trying to align with our goals. I think we have some things in place that weren't there when they did that evaluation, both at the technology side and the curriculum side, as well as an assistant superintendent. So we have abilities that we didn't have then, and so now it's just aligning those recommendations to our goals and our needs, and absolutely. Some of the recommendations were around the safety and security, the penetration testing, those kinds of things. Absolutely.
And then at some point we'll get the school committee and myself, and that's important to me, as we're putting sort of capital projects together, a list of, sort of the priority list of what's next, so we can kind of look down the road and say, this is a couple of years ago we needed $2 million to get up to par on technology, and I think we've reached that point, but we're nowhere there. I mean, we're there, but it's always changing. So every time you get to $2 million, you spent the $2 million, you need another $1 million.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's ongoing. That's going to be part of life in the world of technology.
I think some of the decisions we're making as well, we're trying to explore Chrome opportunities for staff. Every staff member doesn't need a $1,500 laptop.
Okay.
A $300 Chrome device. Now, it might not be the 11-inch that the students are comfortable with. It might be the 13-inch. But it's perfect for them because most of the applications that the teacher is using are web-based. So perfect application for that piece. And then you can buy 2 or 3 devices before we were buying 1. And so things like that. Now, that doesn't mean that the school psychologist, who's a high-end user, doesn't get the laptop because they're doing reports at home.
Right.
So
it's not one size fits all.
Exactly.
And then are we pretty much done with the whole server concept of putting things up on the everything's on the cloud? So are we going to phase out of using servers, and so that's not a huge expense for us by going to Google?
I think there's parts of that are true currently, like this Destiny. We're not going to be housing it on our servers, and I'm looking for other opportunities. But to say that we're not going to have any server expenses, I don't see that yet.
All right.
But down the road, probably.
So Google doesn't solve all that, but it's taken away some of that.
We still have our internal servers, our print servers. There are a lot of things that we still run off our servers. And if Bob Barron's listening, Bob, just ignore the fact that he said that. Don't count to 10. We're good.
All right. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Abigail Adams?
Yes, Abigail Adam for the class of 2019 has been released. 123 students will receive these scholarships. Such schools as UMass will receive a credit of $1,575 per year towards total student charges. State universities receive a credit of just over $1,000, and community colleges $740 per year towards their tuition. So 87 on LHS side and 36 seniors on LCE side.
Wonderful.
It is. So letters just went back to guidance staff, and they will distribute those. And every penny counts.
Absolutely.
Having 4 in college, I know.
Yeah. And congratulations to all those recipients.
Oh, it is. It's wonderful. So
I just wanted to clarify, it's an average. Those aren't exact amounts they'll be receiving because I am currently a benefactor of the scholarship. I go to a state university. I don't receive the full $1,036, but it's based on financial aid as well. So, but it's great. Every penny counts.
Every penny. Every penny.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great. So the next up is the CTEI House Project conversations. Want to come forward? And I can't read what's on your tie.
I know. What do we have?
What is it? Oh.
Yeah.
All the shops.
All the
Yeah,
shops.
very good.
Very, very nice. Was that a gift from the shop?
It was a gift from the shop, yeah.
Did they make that?
Yeah.
Very nice.
Amazing stuff that they
It's a good technology. I mean, that's it. Digital created it all.
Oh.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's perfect.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to all of you tonight. I think all of you have some idea of the rich tradition we've had here in the community of Leominster of a house building program. Very quickly, the first house that the city built through what was then called Leominster Trade School was in 1956. And when we started, we had no idea that it would last as it did. And presently, we have built over 50 houses for the community and in the community. But all of a sudden, things started to change when the price of land in the community began to skyrocket. And when the house building program was designed and thought about, the idea was to help out first-time buyers and provide somebody with an opportunity to get a house that might not be able to afford a house otherwise. And even in some of the last houses that we built, we were working with the Community Development Corporation and Habitat for Humanity, and that carried over into that same purpose. But recently, we have started doing a lot of work within the community, and not just recently. We built the Veterans Center when it was originally built on West Street. We went back later and remodeled it. And some other projects we've done, we built the community center on Viscaloid Avenue, and that was a 2-year project. We did the renovation of the Office of Emergency Management, and that was a multi-year project. We used that to fill in space when we didn't have things to do. But lately we've been talking more and more, and the mayor brought this up to us the other day, and he said, why don't you come before the school committee and tell us what you're thinking? And so we want to introduce a new idea, and the new idea is this. Instead of building houses for first-time buyers, we would like to propose the idea that we build houses for people 55 and over, and that we focus on building single-level houses with a lot of ADA benefits built right into the house, so that as the people move into the house, if they can stay there as they get older and they have greater needs, the house will be designed to accommodate those needs. We did do an ADA house on the corner of Whitney Street and Spruce Street, and we learned a great deal when we did that, both in our drafting department when we designed the house, and then by our students that worked out at the job site and our teachers. And it was a great experience for us. So that's what we're thinking about advertising. When we used to advertise for houses, we used to advertise sometime around January and accept applications for the houses that we would, who might want to have the house built, and pull a name sometime in March. And that paper that you just received that went around to you is a paper of all the different preparations and agreements that had to be made between the person's name who was pulled out of the hat and chosen for the house building project and the school department itself. So that's sort of like a wish list that we would have, and we think a nice way for our students to keep serving the community. And this is what we wanted to present to you tonight, so that we could maybe answer questions and get feedback from you.
So, Dave.
Go ahead.
No. So what I was going to say is it's hard to find land, right? I mean, it just is. I mean, it's really tough. But one of the things I was thinking is every so often we get a house back because, they didn't pay property taxes, and we go after those properties. And it takes a long time, but we do get them back. So let's just say a scenario where we put it out and say, and maybe somebody has a piece of land, they have a large lot next to their house that could be chopped off, and maybe there's a nephew, niece, grandson, whoever it might be, son, daughter, whatever. But if that's not the scenario, then is it possible that we could, if we can't gut the house because of obvious reasons, safety and all that, is it possible that we could, the city already owns it, gut the house, have it gutted, so when the students return for school in September, they can start working to rebuild that. So basically it would be a shell. And then the students would, and you don't do the foundation anyway, so they wouldn't necessarily be doing the framing of the house, but they might be changing, so they would have to help design that house to accommodate whatever uses that you just referred to. Right. Is that something that you'd entertain, or if
absolutely?
You could find,
At this point, we're always open to ideas that expose the students to real-world situations. In some cases, what you have described often happens. In other cases, the house is so bad that they take it right down to the top of the foundation, and we start all over right from the foundation up. So there are all kinds of scenarios that could take place. When we remodeled the house on Graham Street for the Habitat for Humanity, we found more problems in that house than we bargained for. We had to pull walls together, and we had to go rent come-alongs, and the students and the teachers did a tremendous job putting that back together the way they did. It was a great experience.
But there's so much in the world of flipping houses or renovations right now is the biggest. Go to the building department. Renovations is the biggest thing, and that's exactly what people are doing. Actually gutting, starting from scratch, gutting into the. So at least we have a couple different scenarios. There was a developer that's interested in doing tiny homes, but the zoning doesn't allow it. So working on that would be another good experience. So I think if we start the conversation, something will happen. As I said, we'll either have a house that's owned by the city that we can have them renovate, and then but maybe there's somebody out there that has a piece of land that they've sat on for a long time and now they want to part with it.
Yes, and in our dreams when we talk at the school, we all talk about building the small homes on wheels, so that it would be a great classroom if we had it right out in the back.
Right.
Everybody, it's easy to get at. It cuts down all of the time that you lose on traveling back and forth to the job. But what do you do with it once you build it? And where are you going to get the money to build it? And those are the sorts of things that come into play that we have no control over. So maybe by this just being exposed to more people, and maybe somebody be willing to invest in this with us, it would be very much welcomed on our part.
Well, if you renovate the house and we already own it, then I think you take the money that you get after you sell the house, and I've got to assume there's profit involved.
Yeah.
That goes back in to get you your starting money, your seed money, to do the next project, and maybe it's becomes self-funded at that point.
Right.
It's just that my concern about all this, we cannot forget what happened last time.
Well, one of the times, yes.
When we were on the hook, and the city was brought to court because there was an argument about the house being built or after it had been built, and the owners wanted to do something else with it, sell it, and there had been some kind of. And I'm cautioning you. I hate myself when I have to talk like this, but we can't be Pollyannish about this. We have to be careful. That's why it soured everybody's mouth regarding this building. I'm not for this because it's going to cost some buckanooey, and we don't know where the money's coming from. And I'm very much afraid we're going to end up the same way it happened before. He will tell you what happened. It's in the archives. I'm not making this up. We have to be very, very careful.
No. Okay, you touched upon a little bit of what I was going to ask you is one, material. If we're taking these houses to convert and things, where are we going to get the money for the material? Because that was part of the arrangement in putting out the bid for houses. The person that was going to receive the house had to come up with the money. I'm concerned with that because, we don't have that kind of money to put into that, even though we may get it back on the
the
other end.
When we
Yeah.
sell it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And the other thing is, I think it's a great idea to think about it being for 55 and over, but I'm also concerned that that generation or that age bracket is thinking more of paying off their mortgage and not getting a new mortgage. So kind of concerned with that. And this, what you handed out to us is from our policy handbook, correct?
Yeah. Yes, I got that from
Our
Christine.
Policy
Yeah.
handbook, okay. I think it's a wonderful idea to implement this. I always wondered why it kind of went by the wayside, and I think it's good that we may, come up with reintroducing it.
Right.
Because I do think there are people looking to build homes.
Right.
And some can afford to buy a piece of land. I just would question, I would hate for us to get into something that we're fronting the money first. I'm not happy with that.
Yes, I hear what you're saying, and I have, if you have just a few more minutes, I'd like to tell you a little story about what happened to me one time when I went on a NEAS visit with the visiting team to Vermont. I don't even remember the name of the community we were in, but while we were there, they asked me to go view the construction site where they were building houses. So we took a ride and we went out a little ways into the country, and we came to this spot, and there were already 4 houses existing, and they were building the 5th house, and there were 2 more lots after that. And what had happened is a bank had partnered with the school department and purchased the property, and they financed the materials to build the houses year after year after year, under the condition that the people who bought the houses would do their financing through that same bank. And it was like a fairy tale to me, because that's sort of like an ideal setup, because somebody is fronting the money to pay, the students are getting the experience, and then the house goes onto the market and it goes to the highest bidder, and the bank gets their money back, and the leftovers are for the use of the school department to make sure that they refurbish the equipment that is getting worn out at the site, or put some away to maybe get a new bus in a few years because the buses end up breaking down. All kinds of things that you can save for with that. Get things for the students too. Buy them sweatshirts. Get them, things that they need.
Partner with a bank like that, that'd be ideal. But I just don't want to see us having to front money first.
I agree.
Right, and I think this is a great start to the conversation, because, of course, Sue and I and the mayor have been on the committee long enough to remember, all those years that we did have a house building project, and it was very successful. And I think it was a win-win situation for the students who had hands-on learning experience, and it included all the different shops.
Right.
So not just carpentry, but there was electrical and plumbing, and everybody got to do a little bit of something, which was helpful. I do want to put in a plug, because it's my understanding that the next project is going to be the Gina Snack Shack. So here at our soon hopefully to be field out back. And we had looked at other kinds of smaller projects after sort of the housing stuff sort of dried up a little bit. So it'll be exciting to get back into it. I think, we all know that we have some financial constraints, so we can't be purchasing land and upfronting material, but we would love to see if we can figure out a way to make it work, because it certainly was a great learning experience for all the students involved.
Sounds good.
So, Dave, as a trivia question, who showed up to cut the ribbon for the project at Whitney and Spruce?
I'm going to say you.
Whitney and Spruce. Yes, no, there was a female news broadcaster. I don't remember her name.
Come on.
I don't.
That's it.
I'm not a real TV watcher, but...
Dylan Dwyer.
Is that who it was? Yes. And it was Arbor Day.
Yes.
And we planted a tree that day. It poured, yes. Yeah. And that family has been very happy with their home.
They still live in that house?
Yeah.
Wait, was that the Habitat house?
No.
Yes,
they helped.
Yeah, Habitat and the Lions Club pitched in. They were working on that too. And we got different donations for the... Matter of fact, Montechusett Regional Vocational Technical School built the cabinets in their cabinet shop. It was the first time that was ever done. And we went over there, picked them up, brought them to the site, and installed them. So it was really a community project. Yeah.
And you know what? I have the pictures on there. They're on our website, the Lions Club website. We have it.
Yeah.
So we can, if we want to sell the program, we can pull that out, right?
That's good. Sounds good to me.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along, we're going to do federal aid money.
Mrs. Cipolla, please come forward. I've asked Lorraine to present our plan moving forward should the federal aid money come into us, the impact aid money. After multiple teleconferences since March, meetings with the business department, superintendents across the state, we've reviewed our DESI guidelines. We also have been invited to a meeting with MJ Handy. She is from DOR. She's the Director of Accounts. She'd like to make sure that this money, because we don't want it to be problematic, because it is FY18 money, so it's very intricate. So we want to make sure that it comes in and goes directly to our students. And so the curriculum department has been discussing how do we put this money to its best use for our displaced students and students within Leominster Public Schools. So I asked Lorraine to bring the plan forward. Yes.
Before Lorraine, who's going to be attending that meeting?
I have responded, and Mr. Prado has responded. We will be there.
Okay.
Isn't it this week?
It is. It's Wednesday at 9 o'clock.
Okay, so it's in the morning.
Yes. I just know that we've responded.
Yeah. I didn't know if somebody from the
city side was
going
to.
Haven't confirmed.
Do we know about that meeting? Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, so we already started talking to Mary Jane, so we'd be ready for the meeting, just to try to sort this thing out.
Okay, so you're going to be there too, Mayor?
I'm not sure if I'm going to be there, but somebody will be there.
Yeah, that would be right, because it really
everybody from the
effort.
Yeah, both sides are there.
All right, go ahead, Lorraine.
Good evening, everyone. The information that you have in your packet includes work that was done by our consultant, Sean, to identify expenditures from the 2018 school choice revolving account for the total amount, which we practiced that number, $378,551. And then our curriculum group, along with Steve and Renee and myself, looked into what would be needed in FY19 using those funds, and that's the information you've also received, along with a couple of the documents of guidance that we did receive both from the Department of Education and then from the Department of Revenue. So the superintendent did ask us what it is that we would need to do going forward. We've identified certainly that the English language learners have a significant need. We have those children who are from Puerto Rico, but we also have an increase in our overall EL group of students for this school year. So those are students who are sitting in front of us, and as you know, with the Chapter 70 funds, we identify them in October, and then we wait until the following year to actually receive funds for those students. So this would be a tremendous aid to stopgap for the children we have in front of us and the needs that they have right now. We broke it into information in the areas of technology, curriculum and instruction, and student support. So we've outlined approximately $380,000 worth of expenditures, which we will be ready to process purchase orders and talk with Greg in the purchasing department at City Hall as soon as those funds are allowed to come in. We've been given guidance that we have a grant program that we need to use. It's called Ed Grants. We use it all the time in order to receive our funds from the state through to the City Hall side and then right through to the school department. And we're ready to put those line items into Ed Grants. It's an important thing for us to do. We have been reminded already that we are one of the cities that receive this money and that we have not put a proposal into Ed Grants yet. So we need to have this done by the end of December, and we certainly are looking forward to doing this as quickly as we possibly can in order, again, as I said, to move on these purchases and get the materials and the instructional support into the hands of teachers and students that we have in front of us right now, and those students certainly have been identified.
So if we get the proposal in prior to the deadline, will we receive the money quicker?
Yes, we will.
So it would obviously behoove all of us to do it in a timely fashion so that we can get the money and utilize it for the students that we have right now who need the service.
That is correct.
I think it says second quarter. I don't think it's going to start with payment. According to this, it just says the funds will be distributed in the second quarter of fiscal 19.
My understanding is that it's coming into us relatively quickly. I will check into that, Suzanne.
The state already has the money
to get this set up and to set. I mean, there's a to-do list here, which is pretty straightforward.
Correct.
3 steps. And I just want a commitment from the city.
Absolutely. Right, because that's really where we're at.
Right. So, Dean, this is really critical for the city side. You know, set up a special emergency fund, impact fund. I mean, this is just accounting stuff.
But we have to wait for DOR to sort of, they're trying to figure this whole thing out too. I mean, they didn't have this all set up. Well, they do now. They do now. They do now, but they didn't. At the last meeting, they didn't. I had a number of conversations with different people at DOR. They were waiting for the final. In fact, when we were meeting, I think, with the superintendent and Glenn, Wendy pulled it up. It had just come out. They had just issued it that day. So that's relatively new. And then our other concern is we want to make sure that nothing is a fixed cost, that we're spending our money on one-time money and not something that's going to be reoccurring revenues.
Well, if I understand this correctly, we've already spent money.
Right.
Correct. Right. And we spent it out of our school choice fund. So what we want to do is reverse those funds that we used out of school choice and offset them against the emergency impact fund. That's what we expended on the displaced students.
It's money.
So all we're doing is bringing up our school choice funds, and we've already spent the money.
We've already spent the money that we didn't have, and it's reimbursing us for money that we've already spent that was owed to us. So it's not something, I don't think, that the city has the say of how it's spent, because it's going back to the students that we've already spent it on.
And this is the one time you'll see from the state says we allow deficit fund balance.
Right.
I mean, that's a big thing. One time. But really, it's like a no-brainer.
Right. And there is a chance that if we don't get this solved, we will lose this money.
Right. We will.
Yes.
We will not get this money, and too bad for us.
Right.
That is correct.
So at this point, the school system has earmarked specifically where we're going to utilize the money that we've already spent on these students. So we're just waiting for the city side to do their piece of it correct, so that we can request the reimbursement.
So with that in mind, I'd like to make a motion that it's the will of the committee to move forward with the outline that Lorraine has presented, and that we vote to have this go through.
I'll second.
I'll second. Any other discussions?
Yeah, I'll just mention that, we got, as I heard, it was 63 students from Puerto Rico.
83.
We're up to 83. Okay. So they were here all of last year, but they came after October 1st. So they were not part of our foundation budget for last year. They're also not part of our foundation budget for this year. They won't show up as our students till next year. So really, as Sue was saying, it's really important that we get this reimbursement from last year in a way that frees up some money, not for anything, but to actually continue to support those students this year while they're still here, but not part of our foundation budget. So I think it's critical that we get this done properly and quickly.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
I think should be also included in there that we do not spend this on anything that's reoccurring. That should be part of the.
If I may,
well,
we do know
they will be reoccurring. If these students stay, then we will continue to have costs for them, but they'll be part of our foundation budget next year.
But we've spent this money. We've spent this money already. This
right.
is just reimbursing us what we spent.
That's correct. But you can't create new positions.
I don't think we're doing that.
Okay, then I'm just saying that has to be noted. Don't say this because this has happened in the past, not under this administration, but these are the kinds of things that led us to the financial problems we had. Is signing off on things we didn't have money for, but we had them for that year, but not the next year or the next year. So,
if those students stay, we will need to continue
to
support them.
There's no question about it.
And in next year's budget, they will be counted as part of the foundation.
So
if we hire someone new to support them this year and the students stay, we will get the money in the foundation budget to continue that staff member
and you
next
just
year.
said it, if they stay.
Right.
And what if they don't?
Well, they were already here October 1st, so we will already have them for next year.
If they don't stay,
then we won't need that person.
So you're going to lay off a person.
Potentially, we have gotten positions
Look
before.
put this all on the record, because I'm not going to bear the brunt of what happened last time, as a person was trying to sort of put the warning signs up, and then it was an issue. The reality is, we have a meeting with DOR, and we're making a motion in a second on this when we haven't had the meeting with them. So,
Right, but this is money. I mean, I think this is money that DOR is not going to.
The city's not going to lose the money. We're going to get the money. I'm just saying, we can't put ourselves, and the same thing happened last night, it's just like a repeat of the whole thing. So we have to, my concern is, and I will do whatever possible to stop us from sliding into that sort of hole again.
Right. I think
by using,
it's really hard to get out of that hole.
Okay, well.
Last year and this year we're in much more solid ground.
Well,
and I think we've accounted for every single penny.
I didn't say you didn't.
You've seen that. I think you've seen that in this administration.
I didn't say any of that. What I said is, this money needs to be spent on one time. So if it's to augment somebody's salary to pay for somebody, then because they're already here, then we'll obviously do that. But we're not going to go out and hire new people based on the fact that we have one-time money to pay. This is one-time money, not reoccurring money. We're not going to get this money next year.
But Dean, you didn't hear what Michael said. If, and it's a big if, should, I rather say should, should the children stay here?
Well, they're already here for getting the money for next year.
Right. And what you're not acknowledging is there's other kids that may be coming. You got to put it out there. You don't want to educate those kids that are coming.
This is simple. This is simple municipal finance.
You're absolutely correct.
No, you're right.
Who's correct?
This is simple municipal finance. One-time money. Excuse me. One-time money. There's nobody.
Yeah, go ahead.
One-time appropriation. One-time appropriation. One-time use.
Okay, Dean, you're done. Wendy, you were next.
That we are even getting into a debate about this is shameful. These were kids displaced from their homes by a natural disaster that have been spread around. Some of them are here. We have already been educating these children, spreading what little bit we, for 1 to 2 kids onto 3 or 4 kids. The kids will be in our count, and they will, even if they end up leaving, we will. They will be counted, and so we'll see them next year. Right. So this money is to help with the expense that these unexpected influx of people who came here not because they wanted to, they lost their homes. This grant is supposed to help recoup some of that expense. It is not a one-time expense because they stayed. If they leave, then we deal with it. This is not the same thing as what we went through last time with using one-time money for recurring expenses. This is a natural disaster that caused the displacement of people, and that this is even a debate we should be ashamed of ourselves.
No, Wendy, hold on, excuse me. You are trying to twist this conversation around to take it away. We're talking about a fiscal policy here. Nobody here said that they were against spending this money for those kids, and what happened was it. So don't try to twist that around. Don't try to, excuse me, don't try to twist it around on me. I'm talking about a policy here. I'm not attacking you. I'm telling you this is about a policy. One-time money for one-time revenues. That's all I'm going to say.
This is money that was allocated.
Excuse me. We're going to pull things back. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? No, one opposed. All right, we're going to move on.
Can I just ask, Mayor, will you be supporting this?
If I have any say in this matter, this will be one-time money. We use, and this is why we need our meeting with the Department of Revenue. I reserve my comments until we have that meeting with them. I want to know, again, on a fiscal policy from the city in the past, one-time revenue is to be used for one-time expenses.
But it's my
that simple.
Right, but and that's fine. You're entitled to your
Correct.
opinion. This is money that the school system is entitled to. This is money that we've already spent, and it's at the discretion of the school committee on
Okay,
how we spend
so
that when it comes back.
so let me make it clear. If that's the case, and it doesn't require my involvement, then go for it. You could, I just want to be on record.
The city's
Okay.
involvement.
All right. All right. So I'll be very clear.
There is a list of exactly what they intend to spend it. We were all just given it in our packet.
It's actually what we already spent it on and are recouping it into those places.
Well, hold on here. The original request was the money that we were putting in for reimbursement was for close to $300,000 to get reimbursed for transportation. So that is not. So we changed that, right?
That has nothing to do with this. This is separate. This is relief aid
No.
for the displaced students.
No. Glenn, what did we put in for reimbursement for transportation in this federal money?
Not grant. We didn't know that we were going to have it.
So if I may clarify, we did ask Sean to look at our school choice expenses from last year that were direct service to the students that were displaced from Puerto Rico. There was a large amount of transportation that was taken out of school choice. There was also teacher and tutor costs that were taken out of school choice. What we came to you with tonight was in good faith what we will do going forward for these students with these funds, which is allowable from the guidance that we've received both from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and the Department of Revenue. So yes, there were expenses that we can pinpoint in the school choice revolving, and that was a good space to put money into because it will be a way for us to fiscally move it into other support categories.
Mike, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, to quickly clarify, I think we're talking about two separate things. We are required to identify the expenses last year that qualify us for the grant. That includes transportation because we transported those students. And then there's a plan for what to do with the money that now becomes available this year, which is what was presented to us tonight.
Correct.
Which does not include transportation.
And I just want to be clear. If I have any say in this, I'm just going to be up front. Okay? If it's the plan to spend money on one-time revenues, that's consistent with the policies of the city. So if the city, take my school committee hat off, has any say in the matter, then we'll stick with that because that's been past policy. And again, we'll review that with the Department of Revenue. Maybe that'll change. But as it stands tonight, prior to the Department of Revenue meeting, then that's consistent with the policies of the city.
All right. So moving forward, we have the E-rate money. Oh, I'm sorry. Indirect charges. Sorry.
Just an update that so far we do not have the statement and the accounting and supporting documentation for indirect charges for FY18 needed for our end-of-year report, and we do not yet have an FY19 indirect charge agreement. So same as 2 weeks ago. So we continue not to have those, so we continue not to be able to support.
We were asked to submit some
Yes.
charges. Why don't you just kind of go through the process real
So
quick?
we were asked to propose an indirect charge agreement for FY19. The school department did that. We've approved that. It's been sent over to the city. That was a while ago.
Yeah, that was like September.
Right. So we're waiting for all of our final numbers to come in from, all the comptroller does is take those and sort of put them together. And let me just give you, for instance, because I've looked through the questions a number of times, on the plowing and sort of snow removal, that used to be around 70-something thousand. That's 130. So some of these things are going to have to be updated. And I think what John said in the past is just to be safe, just use last year's with a 3% or a 5% increase, and that would play it safe. So probably what's going to happen is the categories are going to move around. The amounts in the categories will move around.
So I think there are two separate issues. One is just the need to actually document the indirect charges.
Correct.
So last year, the statement we got from the city previous year was really insufficient. There was no supporting documentation. We were flagged for that by both DESI and the auditor. We want to make sure that we submit a report that's in compliance this year that actually has the, if the school department has a binder this thick that documents every single penny spent out of the budget that we have control of. I think everybody has a right to expect the same level of transparency for the indirect charges.
And that he'll get from each of the other departments within the city to compile that. So, and then put together the year-end report. Again, he's waiting for information to come from. And remember, the year-end for last year hasn't really ended yet in terms of the books, because there are closeouts in terms of carryovers, whether or not people had a purchase order when they did the carryover. So none of that is completed yet. But once that's completed, then we'll know exactly if there was a balance. Maybe the school department has a balance that it didn't spend for last year. All of that has to be worked out. It may actually work in the school department's favor.
So just reminding everybody that that's due, and we don't have that yet. And then the second thing is just the agreement for going forward. We proposed, a pretty good agreement. Potentially there might be some negotiation on particular parts of it, but we're still waiting for that to happen. There doesn't seem to have been any movement in that direction.
It's all part of the same information.
And something like plowing changes depending on how much snow we have and, everything else like that. So some of that is a moving target, but we need a general ballpark. And we should know what we spent last year.
The agreement is, it's like writing any budget, which we've done already for everything except this. It's a prediction. But we also want to make sure that it's being accounted for correctly.
And can't the agreement be reflective of if Mr. Richards says to figure on a 6% increase, why can't that be the agreement? And we agree to that.
Well, because it might be less. So like workman's comp, when you're budgeting ahead. So what's happening is we're putting a budget together now, but we don't actually know what the cost might be on health care or Blue Cross, on workman's comp or whatever it might be. So it's just an estimate.
Right, but can't that estimate be with a caveat, an agreement with a caveat that the figures may change per the conclusion of the reports?
Absolutely. Well, there's an estimated and then an actual.
Right. I go back to even before I was on this committee. I can remember being at a December meeting that I had been elected, but I wasn't sworn in yet, and hearing the same thing, wanting an agreement, not getting an agreement, reports not being in, and having to wait, and we're holding up the report that was due in the end of September or October because we're waiting for the city, and that was in December. It just seems we do this every single year, and why can't we be better at this? Why can't we work together to be better with it?
And particularly for last year, we should have that. We know exactly, plowing is easy. We know exactly how many times and how many hours people plowed. So it's a definitive amount at this point. And granted, you don't know exactly maybe what the next year's increase will be, but certainly we should know exactly, how much the charges were from last year because it's already been encumbered.
Right. The workman's comp bill is just a workman's comp bill. They're all just information. It's a pass-through sort of thing. The comptroller doesn't make it up. He gets it from the other departments. So the school department is assessed for whatever work it might be. Everybody has to figure it out and then send it in, and he compiles it and puts it together.
Is there anybody on our end that also compiles that information? Because we probably should know how many people were on workman's comp and for how long. So we should know what that number is. We should know how many times they came and plowed and, how many storms we had. All that. We should probably be able to have a pretty similar checks and balance, I would think. Maybe not.
It would be nice if we had that information, but I can tell you what expenses are paid for school department workers' comp expenses appear to be significantly less than the annual charge. But if we're paying for workers' comp insurance, we can see if that bill delineates what share is the school department's broken down by mod rates, experience rates. We know what the insurance is. It just appears that what we spend on workers' comp is considerably more than what our actual claims have been in recent years.
Right, because we should know exactly who made the claim
Yeah.
for how long.
We have
that should be public knowledge.
And the city has a committee that puts out those reports, what's been spent over the course of the year.
But they should be able to say, yes, Mr. Jones, had it for 6 months, and that should match ours. Right.
Well, you can do the actual expenses, or you can do what the cost of the insurance is. And similarly, the retirement expenses, as we reviewed before when we had this discussion, the charge by the local pension system through PRAC breaks out water department, sewer department, veteran services, and then city government. You simply ask the person who's doing that actuarial analysis to break out the school department. I mean, they're doing the work already.
Right.
And just so that we have a basis for that charge.
Right, because we should know exactly who's on for retirement, how many people.
Right, you'll get all
have
that.
names.
That'll all be part of the year-end report, all be spread out for you.
But what our auditors claim when they did our end-of-year review, was they had two substantive findings. That, one, we have no formal agreement between the school department and the city on indirect charges, which are the chargebacks. And two, there was no documentation as to what the charges have been the last few years.
Yeah, and we'll get that for you. And again, the year end. The year hasn't ended yet, so we don't know what our actual costs are. We don't know what our balances are. We don't know what our encumbrances are. Have you exhausted all your encumbrances and been...
We're still working on it.
Right, I'm just saying. So that's, if we want to be accurate, then we need to get all that.
And like snow plowing, like I said before, what we pay in snow plowing is incredibly low.
Yeah. Right. And we don't want it to be high. It's not the intent.
To just say,
and school resources office, based on the number of school resource offices we had in the last year and this year.
And we shouldn't be paying for school resource offices for summer when they're not employed by us.
Right.
It should be a school year thing, and vacations and things like that. We shouldn't be paying their salary.
Right.
All right. Moving forward, we have E-rate.
So I'm told, though I wasn't in the room, that the comptroller announced just this last week that he was not paying our internet service bill because we are doing it the same way and taking the discount. I'm not sure that he actually has the legal authority to do that, but that's where we stand. Our internet service bill isn't being paid.
I thought that, Glenn, that was all worked out with my last email to you. I gave you the account numbers.
I think we're talking about two different issues.
Oh, okay.
We discussed this at length in the spring, whether we're not going to take the discount on our services or whether we're going to do the bear method, where we pay for the services and we get reimbursed by the federal government. And the school committee approved using the discount method, just like virtually every other school district in Massachusetts uses. In fact, the vendor that we purchase our internet services, every single district takes the advantage of the discount method.
All 81 of them.
All 81 of them. You made that determination. You asked for legal opinion. You got the legal opinion. That was your right to make that determination. But the city council appropriated $265,000 without there was no designation as to what that fund was for. It was just to the school department. In our discussion that the mayor had with the superintendent, John Comptroller, and I, that $265,000 was to fully pay for our Wi-Fi internet services. But at the time, we couldn't find that, and the mayor did send that.
Right. And that's okay now, right?
So through the meeting, he showed where it's designated in munis. That doesn't relate to the question that the school committee decided to take advantage of the discount method. So we're now in the middle between there's $265,000 available, hasn't been specifically designated for that purpose. It's just an appropriation, and I'm stuck in the middle because we're getting the services. I did exactly as the school committee told me to do, and the bill isn't being paid.
Right. So the bill needs to be paid and the money's there.
Right.
We just need to have the comptroller pay it.
Well, not that easy.
And we have a legal opinion that gives us the ability to do it the same way that most school districts throughout the state, all 81 districts do
Do we
it.
know why he's refusing to do that?
Well, because the issue is, and this is a what if, what happens if this money goes directly to another company, division, municipal, whatever, and that company dissolves itself, or there's financial problems within that organization? Where does our money go? So it works the same as any grant.
We owe a lot of money, so I would
Well,
think it's
any grant. All right, hold on. So the easy explanation to this is there's a policy, there's a mechanism how we deal with grants. None of our grants go to any third party, anybody. We've never had a third party.
But this is a federal program that's different from that, and it specifically requires the vendor to do the paperwork, and then the vendor bills us for 20% and bills the feds for 80%. It's really not a grant that goes to us. It's a federal program that pays 80% of the bill.
But you're giving it to not the city or the school department, you're passing that through to another agency.
It never was passed through. We didn't have it. It goes.
I never had it.
They do the paperwork. They get the money. It's their grant. It's not ours. It
Well,
enables them to charge us for 20% instead of 100%.
It's money that comes from the E-rate. The way the law is written, it comes back to us. That's the
legal
intended.
opinion.
That is the intended use. So it's going to be handled the same way. And the money's in the budget. It's fully funded.
You asked for a legal opinion,
otherwise.
and we did get one, and you need to honor the legal opinion that you asked for.
The Fed specifically wrote the law to work this way. They changed it a few years ago, so it specifically authorizes doing the way we're doing it, and it puts the onus of the paperwork not on us, but on the vendor. It also means that
We don't have to upfront the money.
we don't have to front the money, because if you do it the old way, then you don't get reimbursed till the end of the year. So that's why everyone has chosen to do it the same way.
But we did upfront the money. The money's in the budget.
Well, we didn't.
We did.
Apparently, you
But
set
the money
appropriation.
is there.
Okay.
And again, that's the policy of the city has been to handle this just like every other grant, and that's how we handle
But
these.
it's not.
It's not a grant to us. It's a grant to the vendor. It's
a
a different.
grant.
It's a federal program at this point, rather than.
You can call it whatever you want.
Well,
It's a grant.
It's not me making stuff up. We have a legal opinion.
Is it part of the municipal budget?
No.
Then it's a grant. That's the definition of it. Simple as that.
If I understand this properly, the bill is X, and 20% of that bill is owed by us, and that's all we get billed for.
Correct.
The other 80% is a bill sent somewhere else that somebody else pays.
Correct.
So our expense is only that 20%. That other money never gets billed to us, is not our responsibility, and we don't see it or receive it. We are not, this is not new. This is not strictly to our school district. We, as a school committee, were well within our rights to do that. It is not a grant. It's just the way the company bills the service. We are only responsible for 20%. They're not asking us for the rest. So I'm confused why this is not getting
it would be a
handled.
win-win situation. No one has to upfront the
Right.
money and out to, get it back at the end of the year.
I think Wendy just answered it. If you heard that explanation, that is why we're the stewards of public funds used indirectly or directly, and it's a very difficult way to explain to the taxpayer or the ratepayer that pays for this how this system works. That's why our policy is to treat it as a
It's
grant.
pretty clear.
No, that's what I'm saying.
I don't think
my
that was
point
very clear.
It is very clear. There's a bill for
I don't think it
service
was very
that we
clear.
are only responsible for 20% of. That seems very clear to me.
We get billed 20%, we pay it, that's it.
Okay. The
And
job of
Wendy, I mean,
the job of the comptroller is to instill policies and follow policies.
Comptroller has no authority over how we spend.
Then why are we having this conversation?
Because the bill is not being paid.
The money's in the account to pay the bill.
But
he won't pay it.
He won't
He
pay
didn't say he was going to pay it. Nobody sent any requisition in to purchase it. There was a $79,000 bill that was sent in. Wendy, you want to explain this? Because we've done this over and over and over at City Hall, and the reality is the money is there. The money is in the account to pay the bill.
But it's not being released.
But it's not being released
So
or paid.
so the way this went was we had a meeting a couple Thursdays ago, and at that meeting we had a meeting about the athletic field, and we had a meeting about finance. we were handed an invoice of $74,000 or a purchase requisition for $74,000. The way we work this out on the city side is to pay the whole expense. Because let's just say we spent $600,000 at Doyle Field.
So what does Doyle Field have to do?
I'm going to give you an example of how this. So let's just say the contractor, right? So let's just say we paid our part of the project at Doyle Field, and then the contractor goes out and gets the reimbursement from the state. So the city doesn't have any invoices. These are services or projects provided to the city on behalf of the city school system, and we have no control over what that money was spent on, or if it was spent correctly, or if we don't get invoices for it. I mean, as a grant person for 24 years now, I have to be accountable for every single dollar that's spent, whether it's spent on behalf of the city or directly by the city.
20% is spent on our having Wi-Fi and internet
Okay,
access.
but the total project was
But we are not
$339,000.
responsible for the other 80%.
But it's
And we're not responsible for
There's
Doyle
a
Field.
federal,
Nobody's
it's
asking
not
us
a
for
grant,
it.
it's a federal subsidy to the provider to enable low-cost internet service for schools. We're
Right.
paying the low cost because they are subsidized. They're able to bill us 20% because the feds have paid them 80%. It's not a grant to us. That's the old program. You're misunderstanding how this works.
Who's receiving the
They've changed
services?
it. We are receiving the services.
End of story. That's it. That's how. End of story. There has to be accountability.
That we are paid, and we are billed an amount for that, and we pay that amount.
And
It's
we
that
have
simple.
internet.
Correct. And there needs to be accountability within that system.
We have full accountability.
And
That's
this
all I'm
is
saying.
not
What your issue
unique
is.
to our district. This is how districts are doing it. The school districts are paying the 20%, and the federal government is paying the 80% to the internet service provider. We have internet. They have their money. That 80% is not our responsibility. It's not something they're going to come back and ask us for. They sent us a bill for what they expect us to pay, 20%. It's not a grant. It's a subsidy. It's a way of, it's sort of like the reduced lunch program. It's subsidized on the other end, and the student only pays whatever. This is not a grant that we are ever going to, it's not a grant. It's a subsidy, and there's a big difference.
And the bottom line is that if the money's been allocated, then the bill needs to be paid.
Exactly.
And we are
And
getting internet service.
we've approved it, as do many other districts, to do the discounted rate and not lay it out and be reimbursed. And that was within our rights, and that was what the legal opinion has confirmed, that we were well within our rights to do it the way we did it, so now the bill needs to be paid.
Nona? We've done this for several years now. We've done it this way for many years. Last year, you asked us to get a legal opinion. We got a legal opinion. It said we can do it this way. I can't believe that we're here again this year going through this, which, Mayor, in all due respect to you, I'm beginning to question who runs this city.
Well, I think what happens is the school committee wants to do things their way and not listen and not take the advice of people that are in place to safeguard us.
We can safeguard those people.
I'm just okay, and then so the comptroller, whose job is to oversee this operation, right, says, look, this is a much better and cleaner way and more accountable if we do it this way. So in the budget, okay, then go ahead and pay, then do it the way you want it, but you're going to still need him to sign off on it.
And he's
Okay.
supposed to.
All right. So first you say this is just a pass-through. We don't need anybody to do it. Then you say you need to sign off the comptroller.
Doesn't he release the
Okay.
funds?
Then you don't need him to go ahead and do what you need to do. Then you don't need city departments, right? You don't. So we're having a fruitless conversation here.
Right, because you know that we don't have a checkbook and we don't write our own checks. We submit everything to the comptroller and he writes the check.
And he's saying he's uncomfortable with this process.
And
you're telling him that you don't care what he says.
No, you're asked us to find out a
It's an
legal
opinion. And it's opinion.
And then since it didn't go your way,
No, it didn't go my way. It didn't. He disagreed with it based on the past experience of the city. No, he's the comptroller for the city.
But now, it's a legal thing. It's not the first time. We're not the only district. This is the way that, how many districts?
81.
Our particular vendor has 80 or 81 customers, and they all take the discount.
Right.
They're all
And
school systems.
we got a legal opinion. It was a legal argument. We've been doing this. It's within our authority to say this is how we want to handle our internet service bill. We want to only be responsible for the 20%. We've authorized the payment. The bill came in. It needs to be paid. The money needs to be released. It is there, but he has to release it.
You can request, and you need to have the comptroller sign off on it. If you don't have him sign off on it, Wendy, you can disagree all you want. But his job is to be satisfied. And if he's not satisfied, he's not going to sign off. So I think what has happened is it's in the budget. It's right there. It's in that line item. Glenn, you can't pay the bill? You can't pay the bill out of that line item?
No, that's not the issue.
What's that?
We haven't gotten one. No. We asked for a purchase order for $339,000, and then the city seeks the reimbursement.
Right.
We provided a purchase order of our share, and that has not been processed. Is that correct?
Right.
We asked you for a purchase order for $339,000.
You don't get to dictate that.
Well,
the school committee voted how to do this.
The money's
a purchase order for the amount of the actual bill, and that's been stalled. So at this point, we're receiving internet service and not paying for it. Eventually, the headline will be, Leominster schools lose internet because city doesn't pay the bill. That's where we're headed.
It has a bill, and it has a number from Eunice to pay the bill.
But the bill came in and it was not that amount. The bill was less.
Okay. They need a bill for the total amount. It'll get paid.
That is the total amount we're responsible for.
That's the total amount we're responsible for.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
There's a total amount in the appropriation.
But
a check needs to be written. A check needs to be written for the total amount.
But the total amount is what's on our bill.
Right. So at this point, we can go round and round, but obviously we're not getting anywhere.
So you don't need
It's very clear that the schools committee had voted to have
request.
We voted on a certain way
within our authority,
which was backed up legally, and at this point the city is not willing to pay the bill as we have requested. So we will need to figure out, outside of this meeting, how else do we work through this? I'm not sure.
I think it's a good idea.
Before the schools lose their internet
Right.
service.
That's a good idea.
That's going to be a lovely headline.
That's a good idea, and let the headline be the headline. But I just have one question. What are you going to use that? So you have almost $300,000 in that account, but you're only going to pay $80,000? Your bill's only for $79,000?
No, but we don't have any money. It's not in our account.
I'm asking Glenn a question. Glenn, how much is in that account we gave you the other day, that line item?
That line item was provided to us within the past week.
Yes.
That line item was not there in the previous 15, 18 weeks that we had. It was approved by the City Council back in July. That motion did not include what it was for, if you recall. It just said a supplemental appropriation to the school department of $265,000. It didn't specify that was for E-rate.
Okay. We put the budget together, and that's what it's for. So now, hold on. So now you're telling me that the bill gets paid for $80,000 and that rest of that money will just come back to the city, correct?
Ultimately, we're not going to use any of that $265,000, Mayor, if that's what it's for. We'll simply pay our 20%. The city can keep its $265,000. Okay. Unless the intent is that's for the school department's use for any other purpose. Just 2 points, if I may. When we buy any items from WB Mason, we get a discount. We don't pay the full cost and ask them to reimburse us for the extra 20 to 30, 40%. Almost everything we buy has a discount. So I don't see why this is any different.
Because you're passing money through a third party.
No, we're not. We're paying the vendor directly.
You're not.
And if I may, just to try and bring this discussion to a close, if we're having the director of the Bureau of Accounts for the Division of Local Services coming in Wednesday morning, this would maybe be more appropriate for that person to be the arbiter of this discussion.
I would agree.
Good idea.
Thank you. All right, let's move on. We have subcommittee reports, policies, or anything?
There is nothing to report from policy tonight.
And finance subcommittee?
We met tonight, although we've just talked about all the things we talked about, so we're good.
Do we have any warrants or anything?
No.
Okay. So we'll move right on to approval of minutes. We have minutes from September 17th, October 1st, and October 15th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from September 17th, October 1st, and October 15th of 2018.
Second.
Do we have any corrections, omissions, errors? No, none, and Sue?
On the September 17th one, on page 4, I think the word should be was, where it says the school department were told to write the agreement.
Which number? Because there's lots of them.
It's the top paragraph.
The top paragraph, underneath warrants, underneath the warrants. It says the school department were told to write, should be was. Just call me there. And on another one, on the October 1st minutes, the new and old business, number 6 on page 6, it talks about the murder mystery under new and old business, and Lions Club should be Lions versus Lyons.
Sure, my comment is on that one as well.
Yeah.
The murder mystery dinner is to benefit the Leominster Theater Arts Program.
Right.
Not the Lions Club.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even matter that it was spelled wrong. It's
Right.
the wrong organization.
Thank you. And I think that's all I found.
Did you have anything
I just, maybe, I'm not sure, I might be wrong in this, but on the October 15th one, where under professional development, it has Jen Monday and Katie, and I thought it was Gingras, but I don't know if I'm right with that.
Yeah, so she's saying you're right.
So it's Gingras.
Okay. If there's no other comments, all those in favor?
And just call me Bill.
Oh, that's okay. All right, the motion carries. And now we are up to the approval of a field trip.
Leominster had
Motion to approve the field trip?
to Bay State.
Another wonderful opportunity.
Yes.
We have, okay, that's good. I was going to say we have a motion, and now we have a second. Anybody have any comments or anything? All those
Just
in
wishing them
favor?
luck.
Opposed? The motion carries. Then we have surplus equipment. Superintendent.
2 trucks need to go.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any comments? Or all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And going on to new and old business, we have the MASC and whatever your initials are.
Conference. MASS
conference Wednesday starting, and we've got Ron, Nona, Paula, and myself attending, so we're looking forward to that. And we will report back at our next meeting, Chris, to put on the agenda, some highlights from that conference. Hopefully we'll learn some wonderful things. Do you have something, Nona?
I have a couple of things. One, I just want to give a shout out to Johnny Appleseed for 2 things. One, they have the 4th graders participating in the Bridges program once again. They didn't have it last year. They had it the year before. I think they had it for 2 years before that. And they're having it now this year. I'm participating in that. It's really an exciting time to meet with 4th graders and them to get to know an older person, and I to get to know a younger person, and we shared a lot, and that was fun. And the other thing, again with Johnny Appleseed, is they did a whole school read of a book called Apple Blossom the Possum, and it culminated with an activity day this past Friday that I attended. That they had, unfortunately it was raining, but they had activities in the gym that was all based on what a possum would be doing and how they acted, and they were also able to bring in some animals for the students to see, and one of them being this really big possum that I didn't know they got that big.
Oh, yeah.
But it was really kind of exciting to see the kids participating in that, and I think it's wonderful that the whole school participates in this read. They even gave me a book, and I read about apple blossom and learned more than I need to know about possums. So great.
The other thing I wanted to mention is that they did have the retirement party for Gina Warren last week. It was a wonderful event, and congratulations to her. Hats off for 42 years of dedicated service to the school system.
She's ready to come back. I saw her yesterday at the gym. She's like, I did it. I'm done. I'm ready to go back to work.
So, anybody else with any new or old business?
Dean has something.
Dean?
Just, we had put in for $20,000, a grant that was capped at $20,000 for the cameras for Somerset and Skyview. And I'd just like to thank the staff at the school department and Wendy, who wrote the grant, the police department, and our office for putting it all together. And the police department's been great working with the schools in terms of school safety. It's a high priority for us, whether it's training internal, external. Our trainers, our members of our police department are trainers for other trainers and instruct other school systems and police departments. Most we could get was $20,000. We would like to apply for another $20,000 when it comes due, and for I think cameras and equipment for the high school. Wendy, is that what the next one's for?
And that's security cameras?
Yeah. So we're at the point where we can dial in at this point, and it's really, I never thought 25 years ago we were going to have to get to this level where we need this level of security. It's unfortunate. We were always on top of security, but I never thought it would reach this, but it's a way of life now, and it provides us with additional security for Somerset and Skyview. So thanks everybody for working together, and Wendy for putting all that together.
Yes, thank you, Wendy. That is wonderful. So, you tell. An HR report and October 1
Just
numbers
included
in there.
Yes.
Anything else anybody needs to say about those things? Okay. I see Claire raising her hand.
The breakfast of the bands. Breakfast of the bands.
November 18th.
No, I was waiting for you to.
We're waiting for you. If you'd like November 18th.
I think it's the 24th, the 25th breakfast of the band. Fitchburg Leominster Rotary Club. So if there's anybody, I know many of you have worked the food line or worked somewhere in the kitchen. If you're interested in doing that again, we'd love to have
We're in Fitchburg this year, correct? We're in Fitchburg this year.
Yeah, we were here last year.
Right.
So Fitchburg, that's always a wonderful event.
Do you have tickets? Do you have tickets?
Do you have tickets, Nona says?
we have tickets, I think, to some of the mayor's office and some in the schools.
They've already been, passed out.
And some from any Rotary Club members.
Okay. Or you can buy them at the door. Yeah. As well. So thank you very much. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, leave. Thank you very much.